It's time to use some chips, but is it time to wildcard?
Welcome to my new YouTube show. We'll have a wildcard draft coming up, but first, let's identify the top targets this game week. Well, of course, it's Brentford and it's Brighton players. We like their 26 fixtures, but we like that they both double in 27 and in 29. Oh, and thank you, Blackburn, for beating Leicester, because now Brentford also play in that blank game week 28. So, who are the Brentford assets we like first and foremost? Well, for me, it's Raya, it's Henry, and it's Ivan Toney, of course. Now, the elephant in the room with Toney is, of course, a potential suspension around the corner because of the betting charges. However, I would say we can only go off the information we have at the moment, and for me, he's worth the punt. Now, there is also more jeopardy with Ivan Toney because he's on 8 yellow cards, and if he reaches 10, he'll serve a 2-match suspension. But for me, the rewards are there for Toney right now. The fixtures are good. The form is great too. Now, you might argue in the double game week, Toney has 2 away fixtures in 27 and in 29, and Brentford aren't as good on the road. But Toney's still good on the road. So they've only won twice in the Premier League this season on the road, but Toney's output hasn't really changed. So 11 home games, he's had 7 goals, 2 assists. 10 away games in the Premier League, 7 goals, 1 assist. So Toney's still there away from home, and he's the top Brentford target for me. I don't really like the Brentford midfielders, but I do like the back line. So I think Henry is probably the best value pick at the back because we know he gets forward from full back. And then at the back, of course, in goal, might surprise many, but Raya is the league's best keeper if you go purely off FPL points this season. Brentford do concede chances and Raya gets the save and the bonus, but he also keeps clean sheets. A really, really good keeper. Brentford will do well to hold on to him. So Raya is another one I like. So there's your Brentford assets, but let's look at Brighton too, because look, rightly getting loads of love, and they've been smashing it under De Zerbi, especially the way they've been playing. The results are coming too. The results are definitely coming. And the fixtures are there. It's all about the Brighton mids at the moment, and I want to bring up this graphic from Fancierpedia. So we can see when we compare Mitoma, March and McAllister, it's really interesting because this is only from game week 20 to 24. So it's a very small sample size. But in a couple of these games, we've seen McAllister playing as the number 10. And with that, the underlying data for McAllister is pretty good. However, in the FA Cup on Tuesday night away to Stoke, McAllister played deeper again. And we don't want a deep McAllister. So for me, I'm still looking at Mitoma over McAllister. But we can see Solly March in dark blue. He's doing really well on the goals and the assists. The chances created, Solly is top. Remember, Solly March has the free kick threat. He's often the most advanced player as well. So when comparing Brighton mids, for me in order of preference, it's March number 1, Mitoma number 2, McAllister number 3. Now this was the pass map from the Fulham game in the Premier League last time out. But what can we see? Well, look at Estupiñán on the left. Look how high and wide he is. That's a left back. We absolutely love that. Mitoma and March, the most advanced players, even when there's a number 9 like Even Ferguson playing, he's dropping deep. March is always more central than Mitoma. Mitoma hugs that touchline, March slightly more central. So for me, that's why March is often the number 1 pick, and he gets a few more touches. Interesting that McAllister was playing number 10 and he got the chances and his expected data has been really good. But in the Cup, he dropped deeper than this. He was in the Caicedo position and I think we'll see that. But I also want to bring up the expected data and the shot map. And you can see Brighton were all over Fulham. They create chances aplenty, more reasons to invest. And all that creativity, that XG total, a lot of that from set pieces too, comes from Solly March. So they're your Brighton assets, of course, to consider, and I think we'll be stacking up on them. But the big question is this week, are we wildcarding? Do we like the wildcard? Are the gains great enough? And the simple answer to that is, and we say it every time, it's completely team dependent. Now you have to do what's right for your team. Let's check out my wildcard draft, but before we do, let's have a look at Ben's fixture planner, because we've had a few big announcements this week off the back of the FA Cup. So now what do we know about this fixture schedule? Well, game week 27, as expected, we want to go big on Brentford and Brighton. But game week 28, which was a blank that many were looking, including myself, at maybe free hitting in that game week, it's now not that bad because Blackburn beat Leicester in the Cup. That gave an additional fixture to Brentford in the blank in 28. And now we also got an additional fixture between Spurs and Southampton because both of those guys went out the FA Cup. There was a 3% chance of that happening, by the way. So game week 28 isn't that bad, right? So we can now navigate that fairly easily. The game week 29 double is still amazing and by far the biggest double we'll get. And now the 32 blank isn't going to be that bad either. And the 34 and 7 doubles aren't going to be as big as we thought. So because of this, I was thinking about saving a lot of my chips to the 32 to 34 period, right? I now think I can navigate that whole period without chips. And if I'm going to do that, well, I may as well use my chips early. So whilst I've been saying all week, it's very unlikely I'll wildcard, things change, right? And come Thursday, I'm now looking at it going, it makes sense to wildcard in either game week 26 or 27, setting yourself up for a bench boost in game week 29 and covering yourself in that 28 blank as well. So let's have a look how I'll do that with my wildcard draft. And I'm still not sure if I'm going to pull that trigger. I'm not 100%, but I think it's likely I pull it this week. There's a chance I wait and pull it in 27. But let's have a look at how I'm building that wildcard team. So first of all, it's going to be 3 Brighton, it's going to be 3 Brentford. That's a lock. That's something I'll definitely be committing to because I like their fixtures. Not just because they double. They're good teams and they're 8th and 9th in the Premier League at the moment. So in goal, I think Kepa and Raya is a really good combo. There'll be some that go Ward and Raya, but Raya feels so obvious. Many will look at Sanchez at Brighton too. Not the biggest fan in terms of save points there. Raya does get them, Sanchez doesn't really. The back 5, I'd like to say picks itself. I don't know if it does. I mean, I think most wild cards are going to have triple Arsenal because their immediate fixtures are so good. It's Bournemouth, it's Fulham, it's Palace. So at the moment, the Arsenal defender that's really catching my eye is Zinchenko. I think he'll be the one I go for. At the moment, I own White. Lots will go to Gabriel for goal threat, but Zinchenko for assist threat. Absolutely there. We've spoken about Henry. Estupiñán's the obvious Brighton defender. We just need to make sure that flag comes off, and De Zerbi's press conference will help. Italian managers tell us a lot in press conferences, so no doubt he'll give us the status of March and Estupiñán in his press conference. Double Newcastle defence. Why? Because it's difficult fixture straight up. Well, they play in game week 28 against Forest, but they also play in game week 29 as a double, right? So we get 3 fixtures there over the 2 game weeks. Saka's in. I'm thinking Martinelli's a nice punt because the second Arsenal midfield spot will be short term. I want to convert that to that spot to James Maddison in a couple of weeks' time. But I want to have triple Arsenal for these immediate fixtures. So I think Martinelli may be over Odegaard, but there is a question mark there. Or you could go Maddison straight away, but he's still currently flagged too. He plays Southampton this weekend. Double Brighton midfield, as we've discussed, and then Rashford, of course, is a lock. Tony, Kane and Haaland's the front 3. Now, many will want Watkins, and I completely see why. I'm not sure how you fit him in. Now, with this plan, you get 6 out for that game week 27, the double. Game week 28, currently, I'd have 10 men playing, right? Because the ones I'd be keeping would be the 3 Brighton assets that don't play in 28 and Rashford, who doesn't play in 28. So I'm okay with that. And then come game week 29, with the free transfers I'll have, it's likely I'll have 12 or probably 13 players on a double game week. That's going to be good enough for a bench boost. My bench boost could be someone on a double game week. It could be Raya in goal. It could be Saka and then Kane, for example. I actually think Haaland might be out my team for that point. I'm thinking of selling Haaland in game week 28 where he doesn't play. Therefore, I won't own him for 28 or 29 and I'll bring him back for 30 where he's got a good fixture. I don't have money tied up in Haaland either because most of us sold him and have bought him back. So Haaland is very likely to be a sell for me. And he'll only miss 1 game for me, and that will be Liverpool in a double game week where he plays a single game week. So that's the very loose plan if I wildcard to this team. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on this wildcard, and I'm really keen to see. I think the template is fairly strong for the wildcard. I think they'll all include triple Arsenal, Brighton, Brentford, probably double Newcastle. Many will now have Harry Kane as well. So we've done chip strategy in my wildcard, but let's have a look at how I got on last week. Okay, so it was a red arrow for me again. I only did take a 4-point hit, so I guess that was the one sort of silver lining, if you like, because I was very close to a -8 to bring Darwin in, who blanked. So yeah, a small red arrow, 286k, but it feels okay. It feels super, super tight there. You get 1 or 2 extra returns and you're jumping up that table. So I still feel like I'm in a good place. The defenders sorted me out nicely. Thank you, Ben White and Trent, with 13 points each. Captaincy, as I think I've been on the wrong end of captaincy a lot this season. On those 50-50 calls, I've been getting them wrong. Saka, good call. Well done for those that went there. I went Salah. He did hit the bar in game 1, which is frustrating. But look, both captains still returned Saka and Salah. And we've got a similar issue again this week. We'll talk about that in just a sec. Haaland came in with 10, and Nketiah thankfully got some minutes. 2 20-minute cameos was enough for a 5-pointer, and I still got something there. But there's a few players here. Tarkowski, I bought him for a hit. 0 points. Thanks for that. Andreas and Bamford with the ones. So not brilliant, but look, we can look forward. And if I don't wildcard this week, and let's say I delayed a wildcard to 27, this is what my team would look like. And I do need to evaluate, does this team look better for 1 week than the wildcard team? Now, I don't think it does, but the beauty of waiting a week for that wildcard would be you have another week to scout your Brentford and your Brighton assets before you bring them in for the double. Because many of those wildcard players we feel like we know and we're used to having, and we understand the reliability there. But with Brentford and Brighton assets, we feel like we're going into new territory, many of us. So that Brentford defender, who is it? That second Brighton midfielder, who is it? The goalkeeper situation. So you could wait a week. Personally, I probably want to jump on the fixtures now and make sure I've got triple Arsenal for the Bournemouth at home fixture. That does swing it. And of course, Liverpool United is a tough fixture for the likes of Salah and Trent, who I've got here. But I very could simply look at this team and go, Nketiah comes out, Tony comes in, that's my free transfer. It's a good 11 on paper. Will I go there? I'm not so sure. I think I'm more likely to pull that wildcard trigger early with the team I've just shown you. And if I do that, captaincy becomes a big question mark this game week. Just like last game week, it's Saka or it's someone else. And last week we thought it was Salah, and it wasn't. It was Saka. And this week we're going to think it's Haaland. Now, Haaland got a rest in the week. We like that. He plays Newcastle at home. Saka plays Bournemouth at home. So it's pretty clear what the stronger fixture is there. If we go off form, who's playing well, who's scoring goals? Well, look, Haaland's form's dipped a bit, but it's still there. And City are scoring goals. So for me, this is completely another 50-50 call. I really don't know. I really don't know what to do here. If Saka on Wednesday night hadn't have looked so sharp, it would be an easy decision. I'd ignore the fixture and go, it's Haaland, and it's a home fixture, and he's had a rest. But the fact Saka turned up so well on Wednesday night really does question. And for me, it will go down to the wire as a 50-50 call. Again, let me know in the comments arguments for both, because I really do want to hear them. So there we go. Now it's time to look at some differentials for game week 26. And we're going to bring up 3 players that are all sub 10% owned, but I think they're all about to get a lot of love. And we have to start with Ollie Watkins. He's 6.3% owned. He's scored in the last 5 games. This is not something we're used to with Ollie Watkins. He's massively benefiting from Unai Emery football. The confidence is high. Emery loves a counter-attack. That plays into Watkins' hands. Converted a good penalty last time out. The chances are dropping his way as well. His XG is through the roof. No blank game weeks. The fixtures are there. He has a double in 29. Ollie Watkins, if you're on a wildcard or if you can easily reach him this week, is a really smart buy. The only reason I'm not buying Ollie Watkins this week is because I kind of want Tony more. But I think there's an argument to say bring them both in if you can. Now we're going to move to our second differential, James Maddison. We know he was flagged, but the comments from Rodgers look encouraging. And if we think he's fine, and look, training pictures and press conferences quotes are really important. If we think he's fine, he's a really good buy straight away. Now, many are looking at Maddison, myself included, to bring in game week 28, because he plays in the blank, and he, of course, has the double in 29, which is a good double. But if you can bring him in sooner, then he's away to Southampton this weekend. And I think there's points there. When Maddison plays, Maddison gets points. 4.5% owned as well. Really surprised by that, even with his injuries, because he's always a really popular player in this game. And then my third differential is a man we've spoken about already in that Brentford backline. I do think Rico Henry is the standout pick. You don't expect a huge amount of assist threat from the centre-backs or even goal threat from the centre-back. Ben Mee's had a bit, and look, Pinnock can be dangerous at set pieces. But for me, in terms of attacking threat, it's all about Rico Henry in this team. He gets far more minutes than any other fullback at the club, and he's 4.5 million, loads of games. It's a defence I like. So I like Watkins, Maddison, and Rico Henry, not just for this week. These are differentials to buy, but buy long-term too, because the fixtures are there for them. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button, and before you leave, if you don't already subscribe, that would mean a lot. We'll see you next time.